Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new season of Dores Unlocked. I'm Dylan Tovitz.
I'm Tristan Rutman.
And I'm Ari Schamberg.
And we're so excited to be here with you all today. This is such an exciting time for Vanderbilt sports, and we really can't wait to delve into it. We're going to start, with the men's basketball. We've really had some super exciting games recently. Obviously, the Kentucky game last Saturday, pretty amazing game. Ended up with our second straight court storming. Tennessee, then Kentucky. But to get into the game a little bit itself, obviously they won 74-69. What were your guys', main takeaways from the game to get started?
Yeah, you really touched on it when you said exciting. And obviously coming off the court storming against Tennessee just a week before, we had momentum. And it was great to see Jason Edwards find his groove and get the offense going. I was watching the game with you, Dylan, and every time he was on the floor, we were just expecting something to happen every trip down. Whether it's the driving kick, they were knocking down threes. The offense was looking good all game long.
Yeah, I really agree with that, Ari. I was actually at the game, and whenever Jason Edwards wasn't on the floor, I noticed myself turning to my brother and saying, we can't really produce any offense. So, he's our main playmaker, he's our leading scorer, so it helps to have him on the floor to do exactly that, not only creating for himself, but also creating for his teammates. He had 4 assists in the game against Kentucky. He's been having solid assist numbers all season. So it's good to see him finally thriving in this offense.
I agree. I think we've really been waiting. We've heard so much about, Jason Edwards from North Texas. He's just kind of that volume scorer, has that superstar potential. And we've definitely seen glimpses of it, but I think this game, this past week against Kentucky, we really kind of saw that. What stands out to me about Edwards is he's so quick. It's like he can get around anybody and breach the paint. I think Vanderbilt, a lot of their offense is dependent on that sort of driving kick game, which is good if they're shooting well and not good if they're not shooting well. But Edwards, it seems like he can get around anyone and penetrate the paint, and he's obviously a great finisher, but like you said, that also helps him, set up opportunities for others as well. The other thing I picked up on was really Devin McLaughlin and Jalen Carey. I don't know about you guys, but my main concern going into the season with kind of the team was their size. That was the main concern by pretty much everybody, especially, against these other SEC teams that have 7-footers and their tallest. I think McLaughlin is 6'8". I think he's the tallest player.
6'8" and Carey 6'9".
Yeah, so go ahead.
Especially on Carey's note, he was a little iffy, it seemed like, finding playing time in non-conference play. He was definitely getting his consistent minutes per game, but it was a matter of how he was producing with those minutes. But since conference play has started, he's really been on another level. He's great on the rebounds. He brings so much energy to the team. I keep noticing that we'll get a fast break dunk or a huge momentum shifting play, and Jalen Carey will be on the floor and he'll be screaming and flexing and really bringing the energy and getting the fans excited, which is such a big part of the game. The Magic is back in Memorial Gymnasium this year, so.
Yeah, and one last thing about those two guys is anytime your forwards can step back from behind the three-point line with confidence and knock a couple shots down, it really opens up the rest of your offensive game. So both of them, McLaughlin and Carey, had 2 threes, which were huge. And helped open up the rest of the floor for guys like Edwards, Tyler Nickel, AJ Hogard. So yeah, having bigs who can step back and make threes is really huge for Vanderbilt.
I think as far as McLaughlin and Carey go, as far as they can, match up against these guys that are bigger than them and not get out-rebounded and out-bullied in the paint, that's as far as Vandy will end up going. And I think that's really kind of the X factor there for them for the rest of the season. The other thing that helps is when you have guards and forwards that also come in and grab rebounds, Chris Manone is really good at that. Tyler Nickel grabbed 4 boards. Tyler Tanner, he grabs boards. It's that kind of hustle mentality a little bit that if they have it, that helps them make up for that lack of size a little bit.
Yeah, and a lot of the intensity they bring can be seen in their ability to get to the free throw line. Now their efficiency may be a different story. They shot, I think, 36% or so as a team this past weekend, which is pretty terrible. But their ability to attack the rim and be always bringing energy, going after loose balls, it's absolutely needed against these more talented, if we're being honest, teams in the SEC. So just being able to bring that energy has been huge for Vanderbilt and the history that we've been making so far this season.
Similar to football, it feels like we're having the same discussion as we had a couple months ago with football. But
Very true.
Yeah, the free throws, that was really putrid. It's kind of crazy that they were able to win this game shooting 36% as a team from the line. But I think that's something that will get better, and that might have been a bit of an outlier. But with that, I think we should talk a little bit about the upcoming schedule. we've been talking for a couple weeks now about this absolute gauntlet that Vanderbilt has. Kind of started with Tennessee and Kentucky, so maybe we're overselling it a little bit after those 2 games. But first off, we face Oklahoma. That's our next matchup. What do you guys have on kind of preview of that game?
Yeah, I'll start. So Oklahoma, Porter Moser's their coach. Obviously, he led that Loyola team to the Final Four. They got off to a great start this year. Once conference play started, they slowed down a little bit. But they're a good team, and obviously any road game in the SEC is going to be tough to win. So I wouldn't expect Vanderbilt to be favored in that game. But I think if Edwards and the rest of the guys on offense can get going and be efficient like they were against Kentucky, they definitely have a good chance to compete and come home with the W.
Yeah, I'd agree with pretty much everything Ari said there. I know Jeremiah Fears on Oklahoma is a bit of a killer. He's been great as a freshman coming into the SEC, which is something that isn't seen on every team. I think this Oklahoma game will be tough, especially on the road, but I think compared to their next 8 games after that, it's probably one of the most winnable, considering that after that, like I said, there are 8 games. 7 of those are against ranked opponents. The only one that isn't is against Texas, which is likely going to favor Vanderbilt, but that's still a tough game. I mean, any team in the SEC is going to bring a challenge. So,
yeah, I think this is an important game if they can grab a win and build some momentum going into like the really hard part of their schedule where they go to Florida, obviously have that game versus Texas, then they have Auburn. This is going to be a pretty important game, and I think we've seen a couple big wins at home now. Obviously Kentucky, Tennessee. I think it's going to be a really good test for Mark Byington's squad to see can they succeed on the road like they have at home. And by the way, I just mentioned Mark Byington. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on how he's done, but I've been just kind of watching him on the court, coaching. I've been pretty, blown away with how the job he's done so far, especially considering this is a team of, there's not a single returner on the team. Is that correct? One, maybe?
I believe there are 1 or 2 returners.
Or 2 returners.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
For the most part, it's a team of all transfers and guys who've never played with each other before. And yeah, right. And so it's guys who really genuinely have never played with each other before. And that's, if you've ever played the sport of basketball or watched, basketball, that you can't just throw a group of guys together and have them automatically click. And I think the job they've done so far is a testament to how Byington has really kind of helped bring that team together.
Yeah, I would agree. He looks very composed, especially during the games. It looks like no moment's too big for him. Down the stretch in these games against Tennessee and Kentucky, he was able to keep his guys together even when their opponents were going on big runs and it looked like they would let the lead slip away. They figured it out and got it done, and definitely credit to Coach Byington.
Yeah. All right, so really quickly, it's crazy that we're talking about this already, but their NCAA tournament outlook, if Vanderbilt can get a couple more games their way, if they can win a couple more of these SEC games, 2 or 3 even maybe, depending on the games, I think they're in a good spot for the tournament, and we might be, seeing the Commodores playing in March. So what do you guys see preview-wise on that?
Yeah, so Joe Lunardi released his latest bracketology Tuesday morning. They were a 9 seed. They had moved up, I believe, from being a 10 seed the past 2 bracketologies and an 11 seed before that, so they've just been climbing. As a team that started out SEC play with a win over LSU, they'd been on the bubble, sort of flirting with the rankings since then, but I feel like they've sort of cemented themselves as a, not necessarily lock, not even close, but more than a bubble team. I believe that Lunardi's bracketology had them listed as a quote-unquote very likely to make the tournament team, which is certainly something positive. And yeah, Ari, do you have anything else to say?
Yeah, Dylan, I know you mentioned 2 or 3 more SEC wins would probably cement them getting into the tournament. It's usually floated around that you need 8 SEC wins to make the tournament. Obviously this year you probably don't need 8 because I think it's 10 out of the top 25 in the AP poll now are from the SEC. So maybe 6 or 7 SEC wins can get them in. Maybe another win or 2 in the SEC tournament in March could do good for them to get them in. But I think, yeah, anywhere from that 7 to 10 seed is looking probable for the Commodores.
Yeah, I think I saw 13 in Lunardi's bracketology. Yeah. There were 13 SEC teams in the tournament out of obviously 16.
It's just shocking.
So you're definitely not going to need to get to that 8-win SEC threshold this year.
Yeah.
It's a crazy conference is crazy good this year.
I believe the SEC this season has the second highest net rating as a conference of any conference in a single season in NCAA history, which is just insane to say.
All right, so as we wrap up the men's basketball portion of this section, we have a little activity planned, and that's going to be a 3v3v3 roster draft. We've talked really all along about how deep Vanderbilt's roster is. They truly, Mark Byington listed all of his players as a point guard. Like, he really is into that, mentality that we are a team that's 9 deep, 10 deep, and there's not really like a clear starting rotation. Even now, obviously, we've talked about how Jason Edwards is their best scorer. He's been coming off the bench, or he at least was a few games ago for like a couple, a long portion of the season. So I think it's a really interesting exercise we're about to go through, where it's like, who stands out the most for you on a team that's really kind of one in unison as opposed to a bunch of individual players,
Yeah.
So if you want to get started, we're going to do a little snake draft. I guess
How do you want to do this order?
Should we do a little? Let's just let Ari pick first.
Ari,
I appreciate it.
I'll
So-
take the bottom pick.
Yeah, you get 3 and 4. So go ahead. Give like a short, like little.
Yeah, we've talked about him a lot already, but I feel like you can't not take Jason Edwards with the first pick here. He was the only guy against Kentucky who made free throws down the stretch, which was huge. Every time the ball's in his hands, whether he's shooting, driving, passing, he's great. He does something awesome every time, and he's really exciting to watch. So love to get him on my team.
Yeah.
Pick.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the right pick there. The second pick's a little harder. I think I'm going to go A.J. Hoggard, who we really haven't talked about that much yet today, but I think, he has that experience. Obviously, he played for Tom Izzo at Michigan State. Like, he's very established. He's kind of that other point guard on the team, and I'm trusting him, especially, down the stretch in March Madness. And he's had his moments so far this season for sure, but I think we haven't really seen the potential that A.J. Hoggard has as an impact player, an impact scorer, an impact on defense, and I'm going to go with Hoggard.
Yeah, veteran, a lot of experience. I like the pick. For me, I'm going to go, since I have back-to-back picks here, a little bit of an interesting direction, but I'm going to take Jalen Carey and Tyler Tanner, get a little big guard duo. I think Tanner has incredible vision, honestly, for a freshman who doesn't see a ton of playing time in the SEC. He definitely gets his minutes per game, but he's not starting or even the sixth man on the team. So I think for a guy like that to have so much composure and not turn the ball over until like 14 games into the season or something crazy like that would be huge for my 3v3 roster.
Beast on defense, too.
And also
Crazy.
his steals are my brother Aiden Rutman has compared him often to a safety in the NFL. He reads passes like no one I've ever seen, and he's like always pestering his opposing guards. So definitely taking Tanner there. And then Jalen Carey, I was singing his praise earlier. He's been incredible in conference play, brings intensity, good big man. I think that especially in a 3v3 roster draft, when there's only 2 players over 6'5" or so on the roster, it would help to have a big man. And I prefer Carey over McLaughlin so far this season.
Yeah. You kind of just segued into my next pick here. I'm going to go Devin McLaughlin. Had to nab the second. Really, it's kind of, they have 2 bigs on the team. I think McLaughlin's, right up there with Carey in my mind. They're pretty equals. McLaughlin had a great game against Kentucky. He's a beast on defense on the boards, crazy bit long wingspan. I'm taking him as my other big man to pair with Hoggard.
All right, so I got the last 2 picks of my team here. I'm going to take Chris Mannion. If you guys watched the Tennessee game, he had that insane block at the end to keep him in it and give Vanderbilt the win. He's got that basketball IQ. He's a smart player. He's always in the right spot. He does the right thing. So I definitely want him on my team. And then I'm going to take Tyler Nickel as my final player. He's my 3-point shooter. Every time he shoots, you think it's going to go in. He's fun to watch. He's scrappy. He hustles. And he knocks down the big shots.
Yeah, I'm Nickel falling that far. That's a good spot there because he's definitely their best spot-up shooter and all that. This is a tough pick. We're obviously between now MJ Collins and Grant Huffman. I think I'm going to go MJ Collins. Part of that is because I already have a point guard on my team in AJ Hoggard, so I don't really need Huff as well, although they're kind of all point guards. Collins has, just played more, he plays more minutes. I think Byington trusts him more, which leads me to trust him more. He's been a little streaky shooting, but I like his intensity on the defensive end. I like his, playmaking skills, and I think he's a good complement to Hoggard and McLaughlin.
I'll happily take Grant Huffman with the last pick. I mean, as a similar player to Tyler Tanner in terms of build and play style. They're both, heavily defensive guards that don't necessarily take on the role of primary ball handler a ton, but I think Tyler Tanner is capable of doing that, and Huffman is capable of being a secondary complementary guy who can get buckets when he needs to intermittently, let's say, and very intense defender. So I think that my team is looking good.
All right, so just really quickly with our final rosters. So I ended up with A.J. Hogard, Devin McLaughlin, and M.J. Collins. Ari, you had?
Jason Edwards, Tyler Nickel, and Chris Manuel.
And Huffman, Tyler Tanner, and Jalen Carey.
All right, so we'll leave it up to you guys to decide who's the best team. I think they're definitely. I think you are definitely the best scoring, but you might. I mean, Tyler Nickel's tall, but he doesn't really play big, so you might lack that kind of rebounding size on defense.
True.
I think our teams are somewhat similarly structured.
A couple defensive guards, big men.
Yeah. All right, so that's about it for men's basketball. We're going to now segue over a little bit to women's. For as much as we've talked about the men's basketball team, I think the women's basketball team has been as, if not even more impressive so far. Probably even more, honestly. They were ranked, obviously, 23 in the AP poll this week, which is one spot higher than the men's team. They've been, really pretty awesome so far, really exciting. Tristan, I'll let you get started with
yeah, sure. So I want to talk about their past two games. Two of their past three games. They played in Tennessee. They played in Nashville against Tennessee, and the game got very close down the stretch, but they ended up coming away with the victory after Michaela Blakes had a putback layup off a rebound, which I don't know if you've heard the name Michaela Blakes, but she is probably the best freshman in the country. She is probably one of the best players in the SEC as a freshman, which is insane to say. But yeah, she had a putback in that game to win it for Vanderbilt with, I believe, 0.9 seconds left. And then against Alabama on the road, another ranked team, Vanderbilt won after Michaela Blakes led the team in scoring with 33 points. With that performance, she became the only freshman in the country to drop two 30-plus point games. The first of those, which came against Georgia in the SEC opener, as she was the first Vanderbilt player to ever score 30-plus points in their first SEC game. So just an endless amount of records being broken here. And then Camille Pierre, on the other hand, her complement, a sort of dynamic duo there, had a down game against Alabama, but she's incredible. She should be in the running for the best women's basketball player in the country, averaging like 21 and 12 or something like that. It's an incredible duo that we have, and I can't say enough praise about the women's team.
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of nailed all the points there, but I mean, Michaela Blakes has been awesome. Like, I think everyone thought she was going to be good, but I don't know if anyone thought she would be this good. We've been talking about like SEC Freshman of the Year, like her name's been thrown around a lot. I think it's time we talk about her as the freshman college basketball freshman of the year.
Yeah,
and I think not only talk about it, I think she is the front runner for that right now. There's absolutely no reason why she shouldn't win. I think she just won SEC Freshman of the Week again. I think this is like the third or fourth time.
I believe it's her third
time.
Yeah.
And like you said, Pierre and her, they really make a dynamic duo. I think it's kind of what we want Edwards and Hogard to be on the men's side as well. But I think Shea Ralph has done an awesome job with that team, and we're looking at a team on the women's side that can really, really make a run in the tournament. Like, I think their ceiling is a lot higher than the men's, and I think that this could be a really exciting March for the women's team.
Yeah, you said it. I was just going to add the job that Shea Ralph has done, and obviously last year, as good of a year it was for the women's team, they won their first four game, but this year, first four is completely out of the picture. We're looking at top 6, maybe even by the time it's all said and done, a top 5 seed for the women's team in the tournament. So yeah, it's really impressive. Obviously, it's not talked about as much because of the success recently that the men's team is having, but the women's team deserves just as much and probably even more praise than the men's team is getting right now. So
I will say one thing as a playing devil's advocate for why the women's team may not succeed so far in March, although I do have my high hopes for them. The fact that Camille Pierre and Michaela Blakes are probably the best duo in the country, although I'm biased. Does hurt them a little bit because they don't have that third scoring option or rest of the depth as much as in comparison to the men's team like we were talking about. Ayanna Moore has stepped up in certain games. Jane Juice Nwaba has stepped up in certain games, but they still lack a definite third scoring option, so I feel like that could end up hurting them down the stretch if Blakes and Pierre happen to have an off night on the same night as each other, which is unlikely, but we'll see.
Yeah. So looking ahead, the team plays at Florida on Thursday. Florida's definitely not the best team in the SEC. They're 2-5 in the conference right now. However, like we talked about, any road game in the SEC is tough. My guess is this will be a pretty close game. It'll go down to the wire. And then they kind of, like the men's, a little bit of a gauntlet coming up. They have Texas next Thursday, so a week from this game. Texas women's team is legit, really good. And obviously the SEC is always tough. So we'll see how they can finish off the rest of their schedule, get through these next couple games. And like Ari said, we could be looking at a genuine top seed in March Madness.
We could see them host a game in Nashville.
That would be awesome.
Hope so.
That would be awesome. All right, so to wrap up, we have another little game planned. This is something that actually we don't even know what the game is yet. We're going to segue a little bit away from the Vanderbilt college sports, and we're going to go to the NFL. Is that correct? Obviously, conference championship weekend was this past weekend, 2 really exciting games. We have a rematch of Super Bowl 57, Chiefs-Eagles coming up. So yeah, tell us, Ari, what are we going to be doing?
Yeah, no, you touched on it. Chiefs and Eagles again in Super Bowl 59. So I thought that we should throw it back to 2 years ago in Super Bowl 57 and see which one of the two of you can name each and every player who scored a touchdown in that game. And if you remember, the Chiefs,
That's tough.
Chiefs won 38-35, high-scoring game. A lot of touchdowns.
This is going to be a lot of guessing based on players that we're likely to score.
We got to go back and forth here.
Yeah, we'll go
3
back.
strikes.
3 strikes, and if we get stuck,
I'll throw a hint
push
or
us over
two.
the line a little bit.
All right.
All right. You want to go first?
Yeah, I'm not certain in this because I don't remember anyone who scored in the game, but I think it's as much of a lock as it could be. I'm gonna guess Travis Kelce scored a touchdown.
He did. He scored the first touchdown for the Chiefs, the second touchdown of the game.
Wonderful.
All right. So let's think. How many touchdowns were there in total? There were 10?
835 is probably
10, 5 for each team.
Could be some sort
I'm
of
gonna have to
field
go.
goal.
I'd have to imagine it's 10, but I'm gonna go with. This was post tush push, like after that started. So I'm gonna go Jalen Hurts and hope he snuck one in.
He didn't just have one.
He certainly.
He didn't just have
I think
one.
he had 3.
He had 3.
Yeah.
All right. So that
Yeah,
knocks out
3
4.
Jalen Hurts
Do I
rushing
get
touchdowns.
triple the points for that?
I don't think so.
Nah, it's okay. We'll count
every
that. We'll count that as 1. All right.
All right, so now that you've knocked out some Eagles, it's going to be a little harder to guess that. So I'm probably going to try and guess a Chiefs player. I do believe that Kadarius Toney scored in this game.
Well done.
Oh, he did.
He did.
He did.
He
I
did.
remember that.
Hopping
well
on the
now.
sideline,
Oh my
holding his
God.
hamstring afterwards.
Yep. Oh,
As
yeah.
a Giants fan, I didn't love that, but,
He scored in the fourth quarter. Gave the Chiefs their first lead of the game,
I
actually.
remember that
Wow.
very well. All right. Back to me now. This could be wrong, but I think Pacheco was the lead back in that game. I'm going to go Isaiah Pacheco.
He did score.
Let's go. Oh, we're lucky killing this.
Not bad.
All right, so
far,
what is
no
it,
mistakes.
2-2? All right.
All right, this is going to sound ridiculous if I'm wrong, but give me Sky Moore.
Sky Moore.
Let's go.
Also in the
God,
fourth
that's a crazy
quarter.
pull.
What a pull.
Who was the Eagles' lead back? Was it Miles Sanders? There's no way Miles Sanders.
It must have
scored.
been.
I'm not going to guess Miles Sanders. So. And I'm not going to read Ari's facial expressions either. Let me think. Who could have scored? Sky Moore. That's a crazy pull.
I remember that one.
There's
So
one more
nothing
that's
after
pretty
that.
obvious that you guys haven't mentioned yet.
I mean, I have it, but it's not my turn.
Oh, you have it. All right. You remember it, or you just think?
Yeah. I remember it now that I already mentioned it.
I do not remember games from 2 years ago as well. I would guess. Is Tyreek gone at this point? He was.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna go. I want to say Devonta Smith scored, and it wasn't AJ Brown.
I
Strike
know for
one.
a fact that A.J. Brown did score.
Correct.
It was a pretty deep touchdown, I believe.
45 yards.
Yep.
All right, what is this ball knowledge? Oh, okay, so
Back to you with a
so
strike.
now you got A.J. Brown.
So you have a strike.
So what's, all right, so I have a strike.
What's the score?
Yeah, so how many touchdowns do we have left here?
There's one left.
There's one left.
It's a tough one.
I'm gonna take a shot here. I want to say Jerick McKinnon. Did he score?
He did not.
Are we missing a Chief or an Eagle? Can you give us that?
You're missing a Chief.
Wait. Oh.
We're missing a Chief.
I'll let Tristan get
Did
a
the
strike,
Eagles
and then I'll
only
give
score
you.
4 touchdowns.
We're missing a Chief.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts had 3.
Hurts had 3.
A.J. Brown had 1. And then
Must have been field goals.
Jake Elliott kicked a field goal, 2 field goals.
Okay. So they one of them must have been a 2-point conversion. All right, so
that must be
Chief
what happened.
touchdown.
Could have scored for the Chiefs.
Give me Noah Gray, the backup tight end.
That was gonna be bad.
Here's the hint. He's not an offensive player.
Oh, jeez. I don't remember there being.
You
a
might
pick
remember
six.
this.
I don't remember there being.
I don't think it would have been a pick six.
It must have been like a scoop and
It
score.
must have been.
I'm
I
thinking.
mean, I'm not going to help you because I don't really know.
Do you guys give up?
No. Chiefs, linebackers, defensive ends. Give me. Was it Nick Bolton?
Wow.
Wow.
It was Nick Bolton.
Nick Bolton.
I remember it now.
Well
Actually,
done.
that now that
You
you
got
said
it.
that, I remember it. I mean, I
Well
sort of
done.
remember it. He's kind of just the main linebacker I know in the Chiefs. But
It's a good pull.
yeah. All right. So So you
won?
technically win.
Did I
right? Did
guess
you even get
more?
it? Well, I don't know actually. Do you got?
I got Sky Moore, Kelsey, A.J. Brown, and Tony.
Yeah.
So I got
I
4.
got
You
Hurts, Pacheco.
I think you win with the Nick Bolton pull. That's pretty
Yeah, I
impressive.
also had Jalen Hurts who scored 3 times.
All right, before
But
we
I-
wrap up
all
here,
right.
We'll call it a tie. We'll call it a tie. Call it even.
yeah.
each of you
I
give
think
me one guy who you think's going to score in this Super Bowl. One for each team.
One for each team. Like I do one for one team. And you do
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
All right, I'll go. I'm not gonna pick. Don't pick like Hurts or.
I mean, Saquon's
I'm
not
gonna
score.
go with. Xavier Worthy. I think he's been.
Okay.
I mean,
Good pick. He was on my fantasy team.
I mean, he's obviously he had a great game against the Bills, but I see him. The Chiefs love to use those little shifty, dynamic receivers, and I think they'll use them for sure.
True.
in this.
We saw it with the Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney touchdowns.
Yeah.
So I'm picking a Chiefs or an Eagles.
Eagle.
Okay. An Eagle to score. And you want me not to say Saquon, even though we all know that Saquon will probably score multiple times.
Oh yeah.
I'll say Dallas Goedert gets a touchdown. Why not?
Give me Grant Calcaterra.
I was gonna say I was gonna say that.
That's what it's gonna be.
All right, so that's about all we have for you today. Thank you so much for tuning in to this new season. We are excited for things to come, both on this show and for Vanderbilt sports in general. We hope you all have a great week, and we'll see you next week.